What else, man? I went and saw the new movie White Boy Rick. I went and saw that the other day. Pretty good movie. Matthew McConaughey. Anything that dude's in is probably going to be pretty decent. It's pretty funny, like for like a drama, kind of like a drama type of movie. It was pretty funny because the characters are stupid, dude. Some of the characters, they just play... the main characters are just some ignorant white folks. They just do some ignorant shit, and they're just fully living in their willful ignorance, you know? Out of context, like they live in Detroit, right? So in Detroit, in the 80s is where this is set. They don't set you up to feel a lot of empathy for the people. I mean, the movie is meant, I think you're meant to like think the people are cool and shit like that. I mean, now obviously, you know, they juxtapose a lot of things like poverty and this shit versus the cool aspects of it. But I mean, it's supposed to be like a Hollywood movie, obviously. But it's a weird... What's really fucked up about it is it's a young dude. He was like 14, 15 years old, and he got wrapped up in some criminal stuff. Like his dad ran guns and shit, and he helped run guns with his dad, like buy guns legally, and then they would sell them, but they would like kind of sell them to drug dealers and shit, right? So the kid ends up getting into a whole bunch of criminal activity, but he just kind of starts to see a lot of the players, right? Like he's around and he starts to get in the game in Detroit a little bit. So he has a little bit of information that he picks up from his friends. And his dad gets in some hot water with the federal government. So this kid starts like ratting to the feds to save his dad. And he becomes like the youngest federal informant in United States history, pretty much. And what's weird about the movie, though, is they pretty much go on to like make you... I almost cried at the end of this movie. It's pretty much like in Detroit there was a law that if you get caught selling more than 650 grams of any controlled substance, that it's an automatic life sentence. Like they say that you'd be better off getting caught murdering somebody in Detroit than having over 650 grams of a controlled substance. So this dude ends up running a bunch of cocaine, and he gets caught with like 8,000 grams of cocaine or something like that. And he ends up getting locked up in prison, and the feds like say that they're gonna make a deal to help him out, and he ends up turning over a bunch of people, like ratting on a bunch of people, and then they don't do anything for him. And then you end up just being like, this kid, but it's like, this kid's a fucking rat, you know? That's the one thing you forget. They set you up to forget. Like, you just feel that, like, you feel like you know this kid's story, and Matthew McConaughey's his dad. Fuck that, dude. This kid was, he was selling drugs and shit. I mean, I guess he had no other way out, but then when he had no other way out, he just ratted to try to save himself, and then it didn't work out. And then you're like, oh, no, now he's totally fucked, and he had to live in solitary confinement in jail. Solitary confinement, whatever. In jail, he was in his cell for 13 and a half hours a day. Or not 13, 23 and a half hours a day he's in his cell. Which is fucked up that you're in a room. And life sentence, right? And they changed the law, and they ended up doing something. He's about to get out of jail. I think he just got parole, and maybe he just got out, or he's about to get out, but he did just get parole. But I mean, I guess it's a fucked up story. The dude was just a young dude. He was 17, selling drugs. He got a life sentence, even though he was helping out the feds or whatever. Still, what a fucking weird movie, you know? It's a cool story. Like, they do it cool. A lot of it takes place in a roller rink. I thought that part was really cool. Like, in the 80s, everybody meets up at a roller rink in Detroit. That's where all, like, the criminals are hanging out, and they all get out on the roller rink, and they're, like, dancing. They're, like, out there just skating together to some funky music. I thought that was pretty cool. And everybody's wearing mink coats. Other than that, I mean, ain't no way Matthew McConaughey was really that guy's dad. I mean, I'm just saying, no, obviously. But, like, I don't know. Sometimes these Hollywood movies, it's weird how they portray that shit. Just like, yeah, let's get Matthew McConaughey, one of the most noble. Yeah, you remember A Time to Kill? You remember, Matthew McConaughey being a motherfucking lawyer? You remember Dallas Buyers Club, that guy? Yeah, this guy is also just going to portray a scumbag dad that sent his kids up for failure in life, That's weird. That's weird to me. That they just go in there, they'll trick you with that. Because it's a real story. That is a real life. I looked up a bunch of shit after it, and the dude doesn't seem near as cool as he did in the movie, White Boy Rick. I'll tell you that right now. Couldn't find much about his family. I know that much. But, yeah, White Boy Rick, decent movie. I would recommend going to see it, especially in theaters. Movies these days, like, I don't go to the theaters a lot. I try to go more. But, there's a lot of great movies that they're putting out these days, for sure. A lot of people, especially me, like, I'll talk mad shit on, like, they don't make new movies. Like, Hollywood isn't investing in creating new movies. But, like, White Boy Rick, that's a new movie concept. These, like, another thing, I'll go see a lot of these Marvel movies, these superhero movies, dude, fucking badass. If you've never seen a movie in IMAX, the next movie you go see that shit in IMAX. That shit is incredible. Like, I don't fuck with the 3D. Like, I wear glasses, so, like, the 3D doesn't translate well for me wearing glasses on top of my glasses. So, that's not really built for me. But IMAX, dude, the screen is, like, 40% bigger. The seats in the theaters, the sound system is completely different. Like, they got special theaters for that shit. Also, a lot of the time, you can buy specific seats in that shit. So, like, I go see movies by myself all the time. I can, like, buy the seat right in the middle of the back. Like, when I go to the movies, I sit not in the middle and not in the back, but I sit in the middle of the back. So, like, if you split it up into, like, 3/4 or, like, 4/4, I'm sitting at, like, that third quarter mark. That's, like, my spot at the movies. So, IMAX, I fucks with IMAX. We got one at Opry Mills in Nashville. There's not another one around in any other theaters, so I really fuck with that. If you haven't had an IMAX, especially animated. Like, I saw The Incredibles 2. Incredibles 2 in IMAX, oh, my God. That shit was outrageous. The new Avengers, I guess it was the Infinity War one or whatever, they filmed that movie especially with IMAX cameras, so they like filmed it to be in IMAX. So that's the way, like, if you see that shit at home on DVD or like on Netflix, IMAX is where you should have seen that shit. So get out there, buy a ticket for an IMAX movie. That should put me on payroll, dude. IMAX, I pump that shit up like fucking Don King. Be their promoter. Yeah, but White Boy Rick, not an IMAX. I just saw that shit in standard movie. I went to a movie theater I don't normally go to, this older movie theater. I always go to Opry Mills. I always go across town because it's in the mall. They always take their shit real serious. It's they're newer. I went to this theater, and it was good, but it was older. The seats were older. Also, this was more of my one of my first experiences being in a predominantly black movie theater. It was kind of out towards Antioch. If you're in Nashville, you know where Antioch is. I'm kind of out in that area. And I figured since White Boy Rick's not IMAX, I'm not going to drive across town. I'll just go right next door. There's a movie theater right behind my apartment, pretty much. And it was cool. I always heard getting into it with the previews was rough, right? Because everybody's getting in. I got there early, which I normally don't do, so I was there for like all the previews, and everybody's being loud and conversating and shit, which was kind of weird, which isn't typical. But once the movie got in, it was all cool. I wasn't to make it sound. I wasn't like worried about it all. I just was sitting in the movie, and as I kind of everybody was sitting down, I took notes of my surroundings. I was like, oh shit. Maybe this is a predominantly black movie theater that I'm in right now. And then I was like, okay, let's see let's see if it's what people really say it is. And it was totally cool. Nobody was talking in the movie like at all. Which sounds, 2018, like the connotation that this shit sounds so racist, but like everybody talks shit about like, and especially like, it was weird, right? Because I actually did I didn't think about it, but there was a huge line for tickets when I got there, right? And I'm waiting in line, I'm there by myself. And everybody in line was either black or Hispanic, right? Which is cool. It's even weird to have to say, which is cool. But I'm in line, and I just got to the front, and the reason I'm being so weird about it, I think, trying to recap it, is that I had to say out loud that I was buying tickets. I was like, one for White Boy Rick, please. Courier, I'll take one for Usher. I'll take one for White Boy Rick, please. Thank you. No, that shit was lame that I had to say that out loud, and I felt weird after that. I remember feeling weird because everybody around me, right as I was about to have to say it, I was like, oh shit, I'm definitely the only white person here. And to say, I don't know, you hear it. I was uncomfortable. So I get into the movie theater, I get my concessions, I always get cookie dough bites. If you ever fuck with the cookie dough bites, that's my shit. I don't really get popcorn. Dr. Pepper, cookie dough bites, that's my movie shit. So I sit down, and everybody starts to trickle in, settling around me. The lights, it's an old movie theater, so the lights are kind of bright when the previews are going on. And I said, okay, this is it. I'm in a black movie theater. And the movie experience was just like any other movie experience. There was nothing. The reactions at points in the movie where the crowd would react in a movie, they were a little heightened. People were like, there was one point where in the movie White Boy Rick, he has sex with this girl one time, and then you never see her again, pretty much. And then later on in the movie, she has like a little 6-year-old brother, and she's an African American lady, and her like 6-year-old like little brother comes over to his house and is like, "You fucking with Keisha? You Ricky? Yeah, well, you Keisha's baby daddy now," or some shit, you know. And then he pretty much tells him that he's got a baby, and that he needs to man up and take care of that shit, or he's not going to like what happens. And he's like a little 6-year-old kid, and it was really funny. So everybody was laughing. But that was cool. Being in there, I felt like I was a part of something. You know? No. No, White Boy Rick, definitely go see it. It was a pretty sweet movie. But I do have to say, it pretty much is just a romanticized story about a rat. A kid that's fucking ignorant as shit, probably half retarded, if I can say that, and he ends up getting in deep with selling drugs and not knowing any better about his life, and then he just tries to rat to the feds about it, and it doesn't save him, and he's stuck in prison anyway. So it sucks that he was 17, but a lot of people, that happens to a lot of people at 17, and they don't get movies made about them that make them look real cool. That's one thing. They do make the character Ricky look really smart in like a street sense kind of way. And I think it's just like the story is that he's a rat, and that he was held in a Michigan state prison, or I think he was in different penitentiaries around the country, but he was held in prison on a life sentence for a charge that like nobody else was held on. He was in prison longer than anybody that was. I think he was in prison longer than any nonviolent offender. Like, he was the longest serving nonviolent offender in Michigan prison history. Something like that. So they tried to use that story that like he was an informant, and then he was a rat, that he was like, oh, he was real observant, and he always asked questions, you know. So they always see like some dude in a suit's over here partying, and he'll be like, hey, yo, Nug, who's this guy? And he's like, oh, that's the guy that sells everybody coke. And he's like, oh, cool. And then later on, he's just like, that's the guy that sells everybody coke. You know, so it's just like, they try to make it look like he's super observant. There's one part where his dad's like teaching him how to sell guns, and then he goes into these drug dealers with some AK-47s, and he ends up making a shit ton of money. Dude probably wasn't that smart, honestly. Let's be real. If he was that smart, he probably wouldn't have ended up in prison longer than any person that never committed a violent crime. Let's be real, you know? And also had the feds in his corner. So, you know. Good movie, though. Definitely check out the movie. What else, man?